everybody. Well, today I'm going to be making some end grain cutting boards. And so I'm just getting my lumber ready here. I've got some maple and cherry and butternut, several different kinds of lumber here. And so I'm just getting it planed up and put a nice flat edge on it here so I can run it through the table saw. Now I decided to make my strips about 1.25 inches wide, and so we're going to need quite a few of these. And so we'll just go with the saw here and get all these strips cut out. Now you notice some of them are thinner and some of them are thicker, and that's okay when you're making a cutting board. And they're all ripped to that 1.25 inches wide. So now we'll apply the glue, and I like to use a chip brush to spread that glue out so that it's nice and even and make sure that the entire surface is covered so that when you clamp this thing up, that glue will squeeze out evenly and you'll get a nice glue job there. You want to make sure that you've got enough glue. Sometimes I get a little bit too much, but better to have too much than not enough, I think. And now after I let it set for about an hour, I come back and I get a chisel, wood chisel here, and I just scrape out that excess glue so that when I run it through my planer tomorrow, after it hardens up, that planer is not having to remove all that hard glue. Now my planer is a 15-inch planer, and so I make sure that the board that I've glued up is not too wide to go through my planer. I think this is about 13 inches wide. And so now we just take our time here and run this cutting board through. So this is a regular cutting board, and you could stop right here and have a pretty nice looking cutting board, but I've decided to make end grain this time. I've never made an end grain cutting board. So I just randomly chose 3 inches wide. I'm going to be ripping this board into 3-inch strips. And so I carefully mark those strips and cut them out so that when I stand them up and expose that end grain there, all of those are the same thickness. And now I'll just randomly decide how I want to have that look when it's done. So I flip some of them over and just move them around until I get kind of a random look that I think is good. So that's the whole idea right there. Now we're going to glue this up again. And once again I use that chip brush and spread that glue out nice and evenly. So this is the extra step that you're going to be doing if you make an end grain. And it takes quite a bit more lumber to do it this way too. But I think when I get it done and run this thing through the planer, it's going to look pretty slick. So now we'll get it all clamped up again and let it set there for an hour or so. Then I come back and run it through the planer. Now if you've got a bandsaw, that'd be the way to cut this thing out. And my bandsaw is in need of some repair, and so I've decided I can cut it out on my table saw. And I don't recommend this unless you're a pretty experienced woodworker. But if you go slow and easy, never be in a hurry when you're running these power tools. Pay attention to what you're doing. And of course I've worked in the shop here for my whole life, and so I'm used to what my tools can do and what I can do. But I'll go around this whole thing with the table saw and just knock it down to just the outside of that line that I've scribed with my compass there. And then we take it over on the sander here, and we'll run it on this disc sander and putting a real nice edge on that cutting board. And as you can see, that thing's 3 inches thick, so it's going to be quite a unit here. So I've got it all sanded up, got my edge sanded, and that one's ready to go over to the router here next. Instead of having those sharp edges on there, we'll use a roundover bit and make it nice and smooth. Okay, so we've got the other one cut out, and we'll do the same thing, of course. Bring it over, and I've just got 60 grit sandpaper in here. This thing hasn't got to be super smooth. Okay, so this is this roundover bit. I'm going to round it over on the top side, so I've got the top down now. And I'm running it through that roundover bit. You'll see what that looks like. Puts that nice edge on it there. Now I decided on the bottom, you need a place to be able to pick this thing up. And so I'll take this bit out, and I'll put this one in. And I'm not sure what that's called, but I'm gonna run this bead around the bottom of the cutting board. So I've got two places that I can hold that round cutting board up against. It's up against the fence, and then it's up against that clamp. And so as I run it around here, it'll make my slot that I'm cutting so it isn't jagged and so on. You'll see what I mean when I take it out of here in a minute. But this will be a nice place to stick your fingers in there when you want to pick this cutting board up, move it around. So when you're running your router, you want to take it around several times so it gets nice and smooth. So that's what that's going to look like. And as you pick it up, you got a place for your fingers there to grab onto that thing. Okay, now I'll take my orbital sander here and really give this thing a going over. And I really like that orbital sander. It does a beautiful job. And there's what the sanding looks like when I get that all done. Now the next step is to take some vegetable oil here and really soak this thing up with vegetable oil, and you'll see how it really brings out that grain and those colors. But this is the treatment that you want to do on your cutting board. Just use vegetable oil, nothing else. After all, you're going to be cutting up food on this thing. So you want to be pretty liberal with this vegetable oil, because that wood is going to just suck that right in, especially on the end grain here. And I'll come back later today and do it again, and then tomorrow I'll do it a third time, especially on the top there, to make sure that's really got that oil soaked in there. It'll give it a nice shine, nice gloss. And again, it'll really show all those grains that are going every which way there, because of the way you've sawed those strips and put this thing together. So you can see how that random grain looks when you kind of just mix things up randomly there. And so we're just about done for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, everybody, and maybe this will encourage you to try to make an end grain cutting board. Thanks for watching, and if If you like the video, why not hit the like button and subscribe. Bye-bye, everybody.